Hello everyone, my name is Pixlriffs and welcome to a snapshot video. This is Snapshot 25W15A, the first snapshot that's brought the Happy Ghast to Minecraft Java Edition, and as I like to do in these snapshots, I'm going to try and obtain the Happy Ghast in survival before I go into creative and mess around with it a little bit more. So we started a fresh world here on normal difficulty with commands enabled just so we can check that stuff out later, but for now, I want to start off by speedrunning to the Nether so I can try and get hold of a Dried Ghast as soon as possible. So the Happy Ghast was shown off at Minecraft Live a little while ago. It's arrived in Bedrock Edition a week before it has in Java, so Bedrock Edition players have already gotten a chance to check this stuff out. But I'm genuinely kind of curious to see how it plays in survival. I think a few people have formed their opinion already just from playing around in creative, but I personally like the idea of getting to know how difficult it's going to be to find them, especially since the Nether spawn is kind of crucial to a world. Sometimes you'll end up in a basalt delta and it'll take you ages to get out. I am very hopeful, perhaps maybe too optimistic, that we'll get a Soul Sand Valley spawn in this world, and so hopefully we'll be able to get hold of the Happy Ghast as soon as possible, because I believe you're supposed to find the Dried Ghast in those bone structures that generate in a Soul Sand Valley. Well, we've spawned in a jungle here, so I might as well get hold of a decent amount of wood. I don't know exactly how far it's going to be until we get a nether portal going. We're probably going to try and find a lava pool on the surface somewhere, but that can be kind of difficult when you're starting in a jungle like this, as long as bits of it aren't on fire. If it's on fire, that's how you know you're pretty close. But of course, before all that, we'll need enough iron for a bucket, so coming out to the stony shore biome, we'll grab a bit of coal, and chances are there might be some iron lingering here, so hopefully we can get lucky and find a bucket's worth of iron pretty soon. But as luck would have it, there is a burning section over here, which indicates, yes, there is a lava pool. So I'm going to quickly take the coordinates of that. Just offshore of here, there is a little ocean ravine, and if we dive down here, it's a little dark, but I should hopefully be able to locate some iron. Let's drop down a crafting table, get a couple of doors going before I start to drown, and of course, we will be considering where we can get food sooner or later. But there are cave systems down here that have at least led me to a bit more coal, so I'm hoping that there's going to be a bit of iron down here as well. Well, eventually I got back out into a flooded section of cave, and I could barely see that there was iron here, but there was, and just enough to get us a bucket. So we're going into the Nether, it looks like, with stone tools, but hopefully we get lucky and we stumble upon a Soul Sand Valley. Oh, and there was iron above me in the cave this entire time. Well, hopefully we'll go in with an iron pickaxe at least then. So here we go with the sun about to go down on day one. I'm having to remember how to do the quick nether portal trick, and yeah, good luck with that, I think. Well, we're going to find out whether or not I did that right if this entire thing floods, but I think just to save some of the lava from completely turning into obsidian, I think we'll block that off there, and then we'll see if I got this right. Hey, that's actually looking pretty good, okay. And there we go, okay, we got it done. We've made a portal frame. That wasn't the most speedrun strat in the world, but I like to think I've still got it. I was never a speedrunner anyway. But now, on the first night, we are here, headed off into the Nether with stone tools, although I did smelt out some of the iron. And we are in a nether wastes. Okay, that's a surprisingly good piece of luck, although the lava coming from the ceiling would suggest otherwise. So I'm going to head back to the overworld, and I'm going to try and get some string, because if we need to ride a strider, potentially having a fishing rod to attach some warped fungus to would not be a bad idea. Only problem is now we need a saddle. And unlike the new harness they've added for us to be able to ride ghasts with, saddles are still not craftable, which, I don't know, feels like a bit of an oversight when you can craft something that allows you to ride a ghast through the skies of the overworld. Oh, the other problem is that I have no food, so we'll have to try and figure that out before we go to the Nether, I think. But at least there's an ocean here, and that means we can probably find some fish. Or some drowned. I can't believe I'm going to get a nautilus shell before I get some food. Maybe we'll actually craft a fishing rod and we'll get some fish the traditional way. And did I forget how slow it is fishing when you don't have enchanting yet? You bet I did. Really, we get a second nautilus shell before I've even eaten? Well, that's all about to change, because I at least have enough fish that I can restore my hunger, and hopefully the drowned won't kill me first. Of course, as soon as I said that, I heard a trident. Oh god. Okay, we need to move. Oh, free iron ingot, though. Thank you, zombie. Maybe the Nether is going to be a safer place for me after all. Let's at least craft a shield. I'll feel so much more comfortable with a shield. We'll get an iron pickaxe. That leaves us enough left for some iron boots. I should try and get a gold helmet once I'm in the Nether to stop myself getting attacked by piglins. I've got 2 fish total, and I'm about to go to the Nether. Let's go, baby! So yeah, perhaps this was a bad idea, but at least there's some gold ore right next to my nether portal that will be absolutely no problem if I start mining it. Told you, we got a gold helmet. That's much better. I feel a little safer now. Kind of wish I'd kept that iron on me so I could make a compass and a lodestone that would lead back to this nether portal, since you don't need netherite for lodestones anymore. But we have a basalt delta over there. I'm probably going to try and avoid that. If I can get any other direction, we'll look for a soul sand valley that way. Well, there is at least a warped forest, so that's slightly closer to my opportunity ability to move around with a strider. Although the sad ghasts have also come out to play. I should probably take a quick look around in case there's a Soul Sand Valley, but they will just spawn in the open nether, and I have a feeling this one will be a problem. It's kind of drifting around right now, not really paying me any mind. That's about to change, but they've also got a slight update to the texture in this update. Oh, there we go. That's when it happens. I get mad when people comment on my appearance as well. Let's see if we can get Return to Sender real quick. Looks like I'm going to get set on fire first. There we go, that's the stuff right there, and it only took me getting fireballed once. Boy, I wish you could turn XP into food, although I suppose I have the option of gathering some mushrooms and maybe going for mushroom stew. And there's some red ones just over there. Okay, that should be enough as long as I can traverse this lava fall without dying. And he's done it like a champ. Okay, off into the warped forest, where hopefully I should be okay as long as I don't aggro the Enderman. And with a few helpings of mushroom stew, it looks like we might be able to survive, at least for now. Well, the bad news is we found a Crimson Forest before we found a Soul Sand Valley. The good news is I might get that advancement for finding all the Nether biomes. If we find a Nether Fortress or a Bastion, there is a chance of us finding a saddle, I think, in either of those. And in the meantime, at least I get a little bit more practice with the wrong type of Ghast. Well, I've found a Bastion, and now to try and rob the piglins without them knowing. I'm a little bit worried about the piglin brutes, but I have pulled off a heist like this before. Oh, we got a snout smithing template, we got some good swords in here as well, and even a little bit of ancient debris, but tragically no saddle. And there isn't a saddle in this one, but we do get a netherite upgrade template, and a little bit of food, which I think I'll take. I think the risk of tangling with piglin brutes is a little bit too great, so I'm going to get out of here while I still can, but I'm hopeful that somewhere around here we're still going to stumble into a Soul Sand Valley, because I've been traveling for a while now, and we've seen all the other biomes but that one. Retracing my steps will be difficult, but not impossible, and at least the frequent patches of mushrooms has meant there's no shortage of food. There's another bastion out there even, but I don't really feel like raiding that right now. Oh, and that's a Nether Fortress, which might be a slightly better chance of getting hold of a saddle and at least some mobs that I can kill with a smite sword. So let's wander on in here and raid this. Hopefully this chest is going to contain what we need. Oh, it's got horse armor, but not a saddle. Okay, I'll take the chest plate, actually, because I'm kind of short on armor right now. Wither skeletons could be lurking around any of these corners, and that's one of the things that scares me. But at least we got a couple of chests nice and close by inside, and still no saddle. Dang it. It's a little quiet in this here fortress. I am slightly worried that all the mobs are going to come out when I try to leave, but there's a saddle and some obsidian. Amazing find. I'm so happy that we got some of that. That might actually help us get back if we have to go too far afield here. And there's more iron in here along with another saddle. That's actually great news. Let's cram all of that stuff together, and let's go looking for a strider. Oh, and of course, the Wither Skeleton is here to block my exit, but I got a smite sword from the piglins, so it's advantage me. And it looks like there might even be a strider very conveniently here in this little delta of soul sand, so we can tempt it with a warped fungus on a stick, provided I can still craft one with a half-broken fishing rod. There we go. We can throw a saddle on it, and then we're off on our adventure. Yeah! Alright, well, Soul Sand Valley, here we come. Hopefully this lava lake is broad enough that I should be able to find one, and if not, we have another saddle and we can give it another go. Please, 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 yes! Oh, finally we've done it. It's taken me so long. You can see the durability on my warp fungus on a stick has dropped considerably, but we've finally made it to a Soul Sand Valley. With any luck, we should hopefully find some bone structures here, which will yield our first Dried Ghast block that I've ever obtained in survival. I think I actually see one right there next to that skeleton. Okay, let's sneak up on here. Hopefully we should be able to smite the skeleton quickly. I'll swap to my shield just to make sure that we can defend ourselves. And let's obtain our Dried Ghast for this netherrack. There we go. Smite the skeleton. Get out of here with your flame bow, apparently. There it is. A Dried Ghast for us, my friends. Just for us. And oh, it looks like we're getting attacked by a blaze, actually. There's a second Dried Ghast over there as well. Let's see if we can grab that one. And I don't quite know how we're going to get back at this stage because we have traveled quite considerably far, but hopefully we'll find enough obsidian that we can create a fresh portal somewhere. Otherwise, I'll just end up trudging my way back. That is 2 Dried Ghasts. They are stackable as well. Even though they are technically speaking entities after a fashion, they are also blocks. And we're going to mount up our strider again, carry ourselves home from the nether, return to the overworld, and try and hatch this Dried Ghast into a Ghastling. But you got to laugh at the chances, right? For an update that basically revolves around a change in Soul Sand Valleys, it has taken me close to an hour to actually find one. Never mind all that now, though. We got what we wanted. It's time to head home to the overworld. Well, my friends, I sure have strode a long, long way, but we are just about reaching the shore below which I should find my nether portal. Thank you so much, Noble Strider. You have been absolutely wonderful. We're going to toss you the warp fungus on a stick, and I'm going to head out on my way. Hopefully, if I'm able to climb up an area like this, we should be able to dig our way up to the elevation where my nether portal generated, and I should be able to make my way back home. But, oh, what a trek! This has been quite the adventure already. But I'm most excited to get started on the next stage of our adventure, where we're actually going to interact with the Dried Ghast for the first time, and I believe my nether portal should be around here somewhere if my notes are accurate. There it is! Yes, oh, we made it round trip through the nether with basically nothing at the start, and I'm amazed that we survived that. I'm even more amazed that we've made it back to the overworld, and now we actually get to see what this Dried Ghast can do. Here, on the shore of this jungle, we're going to set it down, and we're going to flood it with water. Because the whole idea behind the Dried Ghast is that you rehydrate it. There we go, we got an advancement for that. Stay hydrated, and as you can see, all of this stuff has been done legit in survival. Maybe just so it feels a little bit more at home, we'll put a few blocks of netherrack around the outside of it. This doesn't do anything to speed up its growth or anything, but I just want to see if we can maybe stem some of this water. There we go. So the Ghast has plenty of room in there to grow up, and once it hatches into a Ghastling, it will happily fly around here anyway. Now I'm going to drop off some of this stuff here in this chest that I made before we set off. We got some obsidian and bits and pieces. We obviously got another Dried Ghast here, which we could also hatch. We're going to start with one, but there's no reason why we shouldn't have two, so maybe let's grow them side by side in the same little tank here. And I see green particles from both of them, so that doesn't seem to be messing with their growth cycle or anything like that. It's going to take about, I think, 20 minutes for them to grow up fully into a Ghastling. During that time, I'm going to pop down the crafting table, and I'm going to take a quick look at the recipe for a harness, but first of all, I'm going to get attacked by phantoms. So, fortunately, I have a smite sword, fresh from the nether. Yeah, this is definitely the main problem right now, is that I don't have a bed. And that's something I was hoping to resolve tonight, either by finding sheep or by finding spiders. But unfortunately, the area we've spawned has been favorable for one of those things, and it's not the sheep. I like the noises they make as they're rehydrating as well. There's this little kind of ghostly ambience to them. Anyway, back to the crafting table for what I was looking at before. The recipe for a harness is already in here. We need one piece of any color of wool, because the harness will be dyed whatever color we choose from the different types of wool. We need 2 pieces of glass and 3 leather. So we are going to need to go out there and get hold of some cows or horses or whatever's going to give us leather. We do have 1 wool already from my nighttime quest for a bed that will probably just end up being the wool I use for the harness at this rate. The glass should be nice and easy to get hold of. There's a warm ocean here with plenty of sand available. The main problem is we have to wait for the ghasts to grow up first. Oh, and the subtitles there said one of them was feeling better. I can't quite see their faces from here, unfortunately, but I think they end up adopting a slightly more neutral expression, but every time they grow a stage, it takes about 5 minutes in order for them to rehydrate one stage. They go through a few different stages like that before they return to a rehydrated Ghastling form, and that's the point at which they become a mob and not a block. And at this stage, it seems like the night is going to be over before the Ghasts are fully hatched, so that's okay. We'll just wait in the morning for them to grow up into Ghastlings, and perhaps in the meantime I can tour the nearby jungle to see if I can get hold of any leather from cows. And incredibly, in that single night, things just got a lot more exciting. I've actually taken a break of a day between recording the last clip and this one, and in that time, Mojang has released another snapshot. So we are now playing on Snapshot 25W16A, and the game has changed quite significantly. The Happy Ghast is now possibly one of the coolest mob transportation options we have, because if you can attach leads to this thing, leads are now a lot more robust and work very differently, and they allow the Happy Ghast to operate as almost a hot air balloon for transporting stuff from one place to another. We're going to get into that as soon as these things have hatched, and as soon as I can find a swamp, or at least a slime, because of course we will need to get hold of some leads, and we'll need some slime balls in order to do that. But with the skeletons and zombies all burning in the daylight, I am going to go and mop up the last couple of spiders, so we'll have some extra string for that as well. Provided, of course, that they actually drop string, which is something that all spiders seem to be allergic to doing whenever I need it. But in the meantime, I've lowered the netherrack around these guys to slabs, mostly so they don't suffocate, because they're now immensely more valuable to me, and also because I want to see them a little bit better, and we can see the expressions change as the ghasts kind of chill out. But I need a harness for these ghasts, so I probably need to head out in search of some cows, or alternatively, we could go back to the Nether and try and track down some hoglins, because the game has dropped me in a very dense jungle biome, and that means it's going to be a little difficult to find cows, even even though there are warm biome variants of these mobs generating in all of the warm biomes these days, I will probably look for cows here in this forest. But once again, a little bit dense in terms of foliage around here. I will say I am enjoying fallen trees a lot more than I expected to, partly because they've left the stump nearby, and now that leaf litter is around here, it really feels like the forest has kind of taken over on this tree. Look at that. It's got both of the mushrooms on it and everything. That feels like a really neat addition to the world to me now. But you know what else would feel like a really neat addition? Passive mobs of any kind. I don't think I've seen a single passive mob here in the overworld yet, except for maybe some squid. Oh, I think I see a pig on the horizon over there. Okay, so they do exist. Seriously, I was worried I was going to have to load new chunks just for the possibility of passive mob spawning. Either way, there are some horses here, and we all know horses give leather, so unfortunately, we're going to have to endure the most horrible sound in Minecraft. And finally, there are some sheep nearby, so I can actually shear them for enough wool to make a bed. And I really want to get back to that stony shore sooner rather than later, because the Happy Ghasts aren't going to grow up unless I'm there. It's not like I could put down an ender pearl stasis chamber and make sure that the chunks stayed loaded or something. But it looks like we finally have a herd of cows over here, along with, I believe, a pink sheep in this little meadow of flowers that seems to have generated here on the plains. But at last, we have access to a little bit more leather, hopefully, if these cows will give us enough. Yes, wonderful, we got 7 leather. That's enough for 2 ghast harnesses, meaning we can ride either of those, and I was able to pick a couple of flowers so we can get some dye for the harnesses as well. And we tamed a wolf on the way home, because I have a feeling we want a passenger to bring along with us if we're going to get this whole Happy Ghast transportation system to work. Plus, I haven't really had a chance to hang out with wolves since they changed wolves to have additional personality types. There are now different sets of sound effects that wolves can have, which we haven't noticed yet in my survival worlds, but it's kind of nice having one of these things padding along beside me, and since it just warped to me standing on top of some cocoa beans, I think we'll call this one Coco. Now, Coco, you're going to have to guard your brother and sister here from the Enderman, who's warping around over there. No, Enderman's not going to bother them. For now, we're just going to have to wait for them to grow up. I'm going to cook up some steak, and we're going to craft our first ghast harnesses. So we have some leather across the top. We need 2 pieces of glass like so, and then we need a piece of wool, and that will make a white ghast harness with a regular piece of wool, but then we can dye that blue after the fact, which I think is fantastic. And fortunately enough, thanks to a few extra cows we found along the way, I've got plenty of leather in order to create another harness for the second ghast. This one's going to be red. We got that classic red versus blue system going on. I think it's going to be fun to have mini games centered around these Happy Ghasts, using them as aerial transport or even platforms to hop from one area to another. But the sun is setting over there, and I want to avoid getting killed by phantoms, so let's at least make ourselves a bed. But I am going to wait for some spiders to spawn before we skip the night, because as aforementioned, I do still need some string. It looks like we didn't get a whole lot of spiders spawning during the night, but that's okay, because now, look at this little ghast. The dried ghasts are moving from that neutral expression to that happy expression, and that means they are presumably only one stage away from hatching into a ghastling. There we go, the other one just got a smiley face as well. The little sounds, honestly, as they're cooking, or I guess the opposite of cooking, as they're rehydrating here in this little box of water is frankly pretty adorable, actually. I do find them kind of cute. But not nearly as cute as we're about to find them as they grow up. Look at this little guy. And his friend is about to hatch into a ghastling and join him. But yeah, there we go. They are genuinely very adorable. And they're exploring their new home, but of course they're going to get attached to any other mobs or people or players who are around, and he's already tickling the dog with his tentacles. Bless. Oh, these things are frankly really nice to have around. I think mainly just because they're a cool presence in a floaty kind of way. They've got a very happy face, and they aren't fireballing me constantly, which is a vast improvement over existing ghasts. Now you'll notice they're slightly different from existing ghasts from the fact that they have a little pink belly underneath there, and they have these pink gills on either side. We can't really interact with ghastlings right now. We can't ride them or anything. They are simply too small, and they can't be harnessed until they grow up into a full-sized Happy Ghast. But in the meantime, they will sort of follow me around as I hang out over here. They're going to do so pretty slowly, though. They fly with a similar speed to ghasts in the Nether, so it's not going to be as easy to have them follow me as, let's say, a lays might. And if they lose track of me, they're going to hover around the place where they spawned. Basically, they're going to designate these blocks their home and stick within about a 16 to 32 block radius, from what I understand. So before we can put on these harnesses, we're going to either have to wait for them to grow up, or we're going to have to accelerate that process by finding some snowballs. And considering that I've spawned in a very warm biome area, it's going to be pretty difficult to find some snowballs without taking a substantial trip overseas. But Coco can look after them, and we can think about names for these two. While we're off on our voyage, I'm going to try and find two things, either some snowballs or a swamp so I can get some slimes, or potentially both. So I'm going to take my bed, I'm going to take my coordinates, and we're going to head off in search of those biomes. Well, having raided a shipwreck on the way for a little extra loot, I stumbled upon a grove biome branching out from underneath the canopy of this dark oak forest, and we were able to head up there and grab some snowballs to feed our Happy Ghasts and encourage them to grow up. The grove also branched out into a really cool looking lush cave, which I wish we could explore, but unfortunately I'm no more likely to find slimes there than anywhere else, so we dropped off the nearest cliff and continued on our way. So after exploring my world fruitlessly for about half an hour, I did go onto Chunk Base with the seed and look up the location of a swamp. I felt a little bit disappointed that I ended up doing this, but then again, it was going to take a really long time to find one naturally, and you can get maps to swamps from villagers now, but I wasn't certain exactly which type of villager I would need to find before I could even trade my way up to buying the map to a swamp. So getting the coordinates from Chunk Base felt like the easy answer, and fortunately, this swamp is really large, so all I've got to do is wait for nighttime to arrive and hope that it isn't a new moon. Fortunately for me, it looks like we're going to do pretty well for slimes tonight. On the new moon, slimes don't spawn at all, so it can get a little bit rough if you're searching for a swamp and you come here at exactly the wrong time, but it looks like we've come here at exactly the right one. We now also get to appreciate that firefly bushes spawn in swamps, and so do the bogged, actually. And there's a big old slime bouncing between the trees, so hopefully we should be able to get hold of the slime from that and be on our merry way before we get too heavily poisoned. There we go, there's our slime balls, although since we're here at night, a little bit of string wouldn't go too far amiss either. But luckily we can get string from any biome, provided that the spiders are playing nice, so hopefully I won't just get caught between these two skeletons for too long. And while I got a little bit overwhelmed to continue fighting that night, I got a couple of string, and at least we can farm a bit more of that from back where we left the Happy Ghasts. Oh, well, that was a bit of a trek, and we have found our way back to the seaside where the Ghastlings are patrolling happily. So, of course, the first thing we're going to do is set up a snowman. I have a feeling we brought back enough snowballs that we shouldn't need to do this, but I like the idea that a snow golem is now your best friend when it comes to raising ghasts, because they're going to be leaving snow layers everywhere that you can farm for more snowballs. And Ghastlings are supposed to be tempted by snowballs, as are the Happy Ghasts, but we can spam them with those a little bit to help them grow up faster. But hopefully before they grow up into full-time big Happy Ghasts, we can get a bit more string from these spiders. And that is at least enough that we can make a set of leads. So that should be 2 leads, one for each of the ghasts, but we're going to aim for a couple more. And there we go, we have one big size Happy Ghast that immediately floats off into the sky, but should actually hover around in a similar way. There we go, the other one just grew up as well. They should hover around in a similar way that the Ghastlings did. They have a bit larger of a range because they are a bit larger of a mob, but if we hold the harnesses, they should actually float down towards us, and we can equip them with a harness. Look at that. It's absolutely wild the way that looks. The one that doesn't have a harness yet should be tempted down by the red harness, while the other one just kind of harmlessly floats around, and there we go. Both of them have harnesses, and both of them should now happily float towards me when they have snowballs. And look, we can fly them now. And I'm actually controlling this using the WAS and D keys. We are working with a flight mode that is entirely player controlled, and in order to go up we can hold space, but in order to go down we have to look down at the ground and hold forwards. So it's going to take a little bit of getting used to the controls, and I'm slightly worried that the ground has become a very hostile environment for me now. These guys move very slowly, so it's quite easy to have zombies follow me around, and if I dismount, I'm going to be standing on the center of the ghast, and I have to tactically choose where I can drop down. So full damage control is going to be something that will be a little bit of a concern if you're flying these around in the sky all the time. So far, unlike their angrier Nether counterparts, the Happy Ghasts have been happily floating around the same point, which means they kind of operate a bit like bees returning to the nest. I am slightly worried about what might happen if they float off into unloaded chunks while we go elsewhere, but that's probably a good sign that we should leash them down to a fence post or something, or at least make sure that they are well contained before they decide to fly away. For the moment though, we can craft up a second set of leads, so we now have 4 of those, and that's very exciting for what's about to happen next. I'm going to drop off a few more of these extra supplies in here, and I'm going to stand around holding snowballs so that the ghasts will come down to me. Probably need to do that in the offhand. And first of all, we can point out that the leads are now slightly thicker. They'll render larger from a distance. They can also be used... Oh, and that's the other problem with holding snowballs, is that occasionally you fling them at a ghast. It is also now possible to leash two entities to each other. So these ghasts are now connected by this lead, and I'm pretty sure we have to shear them in order to get the lead back off again. Leads are going to work a little bit differently, so it'll be worth memorizing some of these rules. But one of the coolest parts about this is that entities can be leashed together, so we could now leash this ghast to our dog, for example. And presumably, if I went flying with this ghast, the dog would be dangling on a lead underneath. We're not going to do it that way, though, because we want to ensure the dog's safety, and we get the sheer brilliance for removing wolf armor from getting the lead. I assume they will patch that once they've done a little bit more work on this. But the ghasts can now be used to connect to boats, and if we get the dog in a boat, we should be able to fly the ghast around with the boat trailing from below it on a lead. In fact, the snapshot even showed multiple leads connecting from a single ghast to the boat, although I'm not certain exactly how that worked. But we know, of course, that being in a boat ensures the safety from fall damage of anything traveling in it, and as we launch off from the ground here... Oh, it looks like the lead does snap. Interesting. So I wonder how they did that. The thing that I was really interested about was in the Snapshot article, they showed the ghast having 4 leads dangling from each side of it. And I wonder if that's something that you have to do by connecting it to a specific point on the ghast? Or maybe I'm doing this the wrong way around. Maybe I need to leash the boat to the ghast rather than leashing the ghast to the boat, or... Oh, it's a shift-click thing. Okay, interesting. Well, I ended up using a few more leads there than I expected to, but yeah, if we... click on the boat and then shift-click on the ghast. There we go. A single lead will attach like that. Very interesting. And now, if we rise into the sky with that harness underneath, there we go! Coco is afloat, and this is frankly pretty adorable. Now, a few things about the Happy Ghast. You've probably seen these a little bit already, but the goggles that it's wearing will kind of flip down like this when the ghast is being piloted, but then when I stand up on it, the goggles flip up to indicate that it is not piloted, but is stationary. And if I had other players in this world, they would be able to sit on the 4 sides of the ghast with me. So I'd be at the front, and then the other players would be around the remaining 3 sides. This is frankly pretty amazing. We have a little ghast convoy here, like a hot air balloon festival is going off, and we're carrying the dog along with us in the boat. Of course, we will need to hold down the forward button and direct ourselves towards the ground if we want to come in for a smooth landing, so I get the sense this is going to take a little bit of practice, but the dog should still be in the basket down there, and all I've got to do is look up and hold the back button to let it down, and the lead physics are honestly kind of impressive at this stage. I'm going to take the snowballs out of my offhand there so that the other ghast can go a-wandering, but I am genuinely curious if we can try and use this other ghast as a platform in mid-air. Oh, and the ghast does take off with the dog. And the ghast does take off with the dog in the boat if I let it go without having something to tempt it. So yeah, maybe we should keep an eye on those. Maybe we'll just disconnect those while the doggy is on the ground. But man, just seeing the leads detangle themselves there and everything, that looked genuinely kind of cool. Like, pretty impressive that they've been able to do this, right? So anyway, let's mount up this ghast. Let's fly towards the other one without any snowballs, and I'll hop off here and see if I can jump to the other one. Yes, you can. You can hop between ghasts in midair, but you still take full damage as though you're landing on a solid block, and the ghast will become stationary at the point on which you land. So I can imagine some pretty sophisticated puzzle courses and parkours using ghasts as like floating platforms that you have some measure of control over. This is frankly pretty cool, if a little slow. Obviously, it's not going to be like flying with elytra, and I think here we have to address one of the other problems with this, which is that in changing this stuff with ghasts and allowing ghasts to attach themselves to boats that way... By the way, can I crouch and... Oh, okay, if you crouch on a ghast, you don't walk off the edge of it. That's also very exciting and good to know, because I plan on using this to build stuff in the sky. But in implementing this interaction between ghasts and leads, Mojang have actually reduced the effectiveness of players bringing mobs around with leads and elytra. From what I understand, it's not completely impossible for a player to fly around with elytra with a boat trailing behind them, but as soon as you use fireworks to boost your flight, that's when the lead will break. Aside from that, though, they should have become a little bit more robust. And the fact that you can drag around a passenger in a boat like this is really cool, but they've taken it to the next level with the ghasts being present. So let me just double check the mechanics of this. If I leash the ghast here, and yes, I did just accidentally hit it with a snowball, if I now shift click on the boat, that doesn't do a whole lot. So we'll need to detach the lead like so, but if I click on the boat and then shift click on the ghast, that's how it gets activated into full hot air balloon mode. Right. And once again, if I leave it to roam, if I'm not holding a snowball to tempt it, it is just going to carry whatever passenger around with it. Does that include me? Once I get into the boat, I'm a little bit too heavy for it, and it doesn't want to just drag me off into the sky. Well, that does make a little bit of sense. Let's try connecting the boat up to the red ghast, like so, and then let's ride the blue ghast, but have the snowballs in our offhand, so the red ghast can basically be our passenger transport, while the blue ghast is leading the flock. I like that. That's really fun, actually. And now if I step off of this ghast mid-air and I'm not holding the snowballs, the red ghast should roam around a little bit, and theoretically I could jump to that one and take over the pilot position, although it's already gotten away from me pretty quickly. I wonder if they can program some sort of behavior where these ghasts will float down to the ground and not carry their passengers away like this, because I get the sense that people are going to want to unload these boats without having to tempt the ghasts to come on down, although I think they hit the ground pretty easily when you have snowballs in your offhand. That's going to be a problem for folks on Bedrock Edition, though, who won't be able to carry the snowballs around in their offhand, so hopefully some improvements get made to the offhand in Bedrock Edition to allow for that to happen. And here's another possibility that just occurred to me. What if we do this with chest boats? So what if we have a couple of chest boats all leashed up to the same ghast, and we can imagine bringing a couple of these with us as a sort of cargo convoy? Let's load these up with a little bit of cargo. I've got the stuff I got from the shipwreck inside of one of these, and in this one, I don't know, we'll bring some cobblestone and wood, maybe supplies for a build, that kind of thing. And now let's tempt one of our ghasts, probably the blue one over here since it's lower down, to head over towards these boats, and let's see if we can leash up multiple boats at a time. Snowballs in the offhand seems to be the best way of tempting them down right now, and let's leash that to the ghast. Fantastic, okay. Now, can we leash this chest boat to the other chest boat? Well, no, it looks like that detaches, but can we leash both of them to the ghast now? Oh, now you're talking, my friends. Okay, let's get on top of here, and let's lift off, and we'll bring a couple of chest boats with us. It's a little bit precarious, but we could obviously bring a passenger in each of those as well, and we're bringing our cargo along with us. Not to mention the Happy Ghast trailing behind, which we could link with a lead, and also link the passenger boat, so we could bring the wolf with us too. Yeah, let's hook up this boat to Red Ghast, like so, and let's mount up on Blue Ghast if it's not flying away with all of my cargo. Hey, come back here. There we go. All right, and now, with the wolf and all of my possessions in tow, we can make our trip above the sea. And it looks like the boats have kind of settled on top of each other now, but the leads show no signs of breaking, which is actually fantastic. The problem with having the Red Ghast follow me right now is that its hitbox kind of ends up in my field of view a little bit. That's one of the problems with them following quite so closely. I can't really activate third-person mode and be entirely sure of where I'm headed or my angle of ascent, and that's not too bad of a compromise, really, but I feel like I'm having a better time facing the camera than I am with the camera directly ahead of us. But folks, we are only just scratching the surface with what's possible with these Happy Ghasts. Of course, I imagine a lot of people will be using them for building, being able to get up to higher heights, work on some skyblock builds or something like that, and build underneath floating islands, being able to simply maneuver the Happy Ghast up and down, and then use it as almost a 3x3 platform. I think that's going to revolutionize building in a whole different way, but transport is going to be fantastic with these things as well. And you can imagine setting up a hot air balloon Happy Ghast with a bunch of chest boats on this, and effectively that functioning like an ender chest or shulker boxes where you can transport goods across large distances, albeit a little bit slowly. I don't think we're winning any speed records here, traveling this way as we are, but I wonder if this is going to be more effective than stringing boats along behind you. It's definitely going to be really great for transporting mobs, and it certainly doesn't require ocean for the entire time you travel. So that's another thing. If you want to take these up to the top of a mountain, it's going to be nice and easy to bring all of that cargo along with you. Well, folks, we've made it our way out into the open ocean. I have a long voyage ahead of me, and we're going to wrap up this episode here. So thank you all so much for watching this episode where I checked out the Happy Ghast snapshots. Don't forget to leave a like on this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you want to see more, and I'll see you folks soon. Take care. Bye for now.